Hey guys, welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. It's Tremendous Tuesday, and I have with me again the beautiful and very brave Alice Pirola back with me. And I have to say, I really enjoyed our last chat we had 2 weeks ago as well, when we had with us your lovely daughter Nikki as well as Jessie. So that was a pretty cool show. Yeah.
That was
How
really
you
cool.
doing, Alice? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I'm sweating and you're in a jacket. It's like,
And not just a jacket. I have one, two, three, four layers on. I'm freezing.
oh,
It
girl.
is pouring. It's
Ah.
actually just stopped pouring with rain for a minute. But it has been pouring. The wind has been howling, and apparently we're in for rain and cold weather, really cold weather until the end of the
Oh,
week. But at least now that we've had our winter solstice as well, we're getting our sun back from you guys, finally. And very happy that summer, albeit slow, is on the way. So,
they
how are you doing, Alice? How are
they
things
say
going
that
there with
it's
you guys?
it's 90 degrees here in Florida, but it feels like 105.
How much is 90 degrees in Celsius? That must be
Oh,
maybe,
girl, you're asking the wrong person.
isn't that
I
about 30? I think that would be about 30. I think about 30. My memory
I
serves me.
I don't
Could be
know.
wrong
I
though.
just I just know that literally it is so hot out. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I'm doing great. My husband's actually visiting his mom in New York, so I had to do all the techno stuff today alone. And I know what you that you know what that feels like. I feel like I'm flying
Yeah,
blind.
that's why I'm laughing, and I got to say you did a really good job. I mean, there's no sound issues, there's no issues, no any issues. So,
Amen. That's
well
great.
done for
That's great.
that. Occasionally, I get it right as well when I strike it lucky.
I know it's crazy trying to get all this stuff maneuvered here, but it's good. It's good.
And then you watch these kids on YouTube, right? I'm like, what are you? How do you do that? I mean, they've just, they're born with this techno gene. I always say, I was born in the era where we were writing love letters, folding them up as aeroplanes, writing swank on them, which means sealed with a nice kiss, right?
Yeah.
And then you throw it across the classroom and you hope like hell it lands in your crush's lap.
Yes, I remember that very well. Very well. Passing notes under the desk and all that stuff.
Yeah, and
Crazy
I was
stuff.
I was horrified. I got to say, I was horrified when my son, he was grade 11, somewhere around there, when he was at school, and he broke up with his girlfriend on a text message. I said, "How can you do that?" You
They
know.
do that,
At
or they
least we
go.
used to send our friends. We used to send our friends to break up with our boyfriends on our behalf.
Or you know what else they do? They ghost each other. You know what ghosting is, right?
Yeah, gosh, yeah. I think that's what's
They just
happening.
don't talk to each other, or they just don't call anymore, or text anymore, and it's like I think that's the rudest thing. Rudest thing.
I think it's become so easy, with the
Mhm.
hiding behind screens all the time.
Yep.
Anyway, it's interesting times indeed. Gosh, there's been so much that's been happening this week. Anyway, but anyway, so we're going to be talking more with you again about borderline personality disorder, trigger rage, and panic
De-escalation.
attacks.
De-escalation.
Yeah. So the de-escalate and panic attacks. I think you said
Yep.
right.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Very
So
interesting topics again.
if anybody's watching that knows anyone that suffers from these things, go ahead and get a pen and paper or take some text notes or whatever you need to do, to get it down so that you have some of these things to fall back on. I was even thinking, Chantelle, that Morné could link my notes
Yeah.
if he wants, if that's possible. The notes that I emailed you, they could
I
always
don't
be
believe
linked.
I don't believe Morné has them.
But I mean,
I'll,
if you send them to him, he could link them. Maybe I don't know. If not, they can just take notes.
yeah, it would need to be on a document, the way I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay,
Yeah,
maybe I think what we should
I
do is
send them
maybe
to
do
you
that
in the
next time.
email.
But let's just maybe ask people to take notes right now,
Okay.
just in terms of. I know there is quite a bit here. I've got it on my phone, but it'll be good to go through it. Yeah.
Okay, so the first place we're going to start, my favorite thing, borderline rage. Woo, baby. And I just want to say that everybody that hears the word borderline personality disorder is like, oh no, stay away. Don't have anything to do with that person. They can't control themselves. And it's like snowflakes. Everyone is unique. Every person is unique. And there's one day we'll get into this. There's several different types of borderline. There's not just one blanket type of borderline personality disorder. There's actually like 5 different types of borderline personality disorder. So you can judge a whole bunch of people by the same thing, just saying, well, I have BPD, but yeah, what kind of BPD? There's quiet BPD, there's outgoing BPD, which is really kind of crazy, where they deflect everything onto everybody else. Whereas in quiet, you keep it into yourself and you self harm and you do stuff to yourself. And so there's all
Would
different
that be
types.
like? Would that be sort of similar to? I'm going to go because you often hear about and you often encounter teenagers who are traumatized. They cut.
Yes.
So would you say that is equating to borderline personality disorder if they go that
Absolutely.
far?
And any type of self-harming,
Okay.
and some of them do it, Chantelle, just for getting the notoriety of it. I don't know how to explain that because that's really not good, but they want to feel like they're on the in club, and so they cut just to feel like they're part of the in club, and that's
But wouldn't that still be, them needing, let's say I'm 16 and I have a best friend
mm-hmm.
and she is obviously very traumatized through other stuff and starts cutting and what have you. And, firstly, I would say, um, if I have a friend who's doing that and we're good friends, I totally believe that if I'm friends with her on that level, something in me resonates with what she's doing. So then maybe just being in that company or speaking about it or seeing it would trigger something in me to then want to inflict the same in me. Maybe it's been a dormant self harm, right? So, because I think of myself at that age, and if anyone had cut themselves, and I mean, I was a very cheeky, stubborn, rebellious teenager.
Really?
That shit Sherlock. But that's what I say. But the thing is with me, I learned how to speak. My father was very good at telling us to express ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So as girls, our voices were heard. Didn't mean they were always listened to, but
Right.
they were heard. So there was nothing in me ever, 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 no matter how sad I might have been if I ended with my boyfriend or whatever, that would have triggered me to want to hurt myself like that.
Right.
I would rather look for solutions. I would rather go and talk to my friends or phone my mother, if something was up with me. But there was nothing in me that would trigger that for me to want to harm myself. So I'm saying that even if those girls are being part of the in club or want to be part of the in club, something in them is still hurting because a
Right.
rational mind doesn't want to hurt itself, if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh,
A
I
healthy mind.
absolutely understand. I think some of it is peer pressure. If they're at a party and they're drinking and doing drugs and their inhibitions are down and they're feeling any type of depression whatsoever, and usually people never ever cut in the open. Self-harming is not something that you do out in the open with people around you. That's just not the way it's done. You know, it's a very private thing. It's a very lonely thing. But let's just say, you know, for argument's sake, that somebody started cutting in front of people. I think that would be more for a show. And that once other people saw it, they may be like, oh, yeah, me too. If, you know, their inhibitions are down because of drugs and alcohol. So there's no other reason for anybody to self-harm. And it's not just cutting. There's everything, you know, now we're going on to a whole different topic, but just briefly, there's everything from pulling your hair out of your head, literally.
Any kind of self, you know, and for me, that is saying that if a teenager, and I'm speaking specifically teenagers, because I think this is where this problem is predominantly, I'm not saying it doesn't move into adulthood, right?
Oh,
Maybe
it does
as an
move
adult,
into adulthood,
yes.
yeah.
But I think it starts, and I think you hear a lot of stories about teenagers doing this to themselves, especially girls. I've worked with a lot of girls who have self-harmed. And no matter what they're doing, whether they are pulling their hair, scratching their faces, picking their skin so that they look like one big whatever, I've seen lots of that type of stuff. Something in them wants to feel.
Right.
So something in them is so numb that and you always going to find that when there's been some type of trauma. I'm not saying it necessarily has to be on the same level and as extreme as what you experienced, but, you know, people deal with things differently. It could be a divorce. It could be a parent leaving. It could be witnessing something traumatic. It could be a burglary in your home. I don't know. It could be anything that triggers, you know, certain emotions.
Right.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's as addictive, if not more so, than smoking cigarettes, a nicotine habit, as far as trying to quit. It is extremely difficult to quit self-harming once you start. And that's why we want to nip it in the bud before it gets into a full-blown habit. And because it's addictive in that the endorphin rush, and we've talked about this a little bit before, goes to the area of the pain that's being inflicted. And
Yes.
what happens is that endorphin rush gives you a better feeling. It gives you a good feeling. It's like a sugar high. It's like alcohol. It's like anything that's going to numb you or make you feel a little bit better and make you feel alive, take some of the pain away. I know that sounds ludicrous that you're doing something very painful to yourself to take the pain away, but it literally brings endorphins to the place. It's
exactly that. It's that all the, I mean, I'm sure there must be a dopamine rush with that as well.
There is. Yes.
You know, so you'd have that those endorphins, that dopamine rush. And that's why I say anything to make you feel, because I would imagine at that stage, everything must just feel dark. You know, you're kind of sitting in this pit of despair, and all you're doing is just howling on the inside, right?
It's gut wrenching. It's a physical pain that cannot be described. There is nothing I know that exists how to describe it. It would be like trying to describe to a person that's been blind all their life what, you know, a sunset looks like or what something looks like. You can't describe to another human being what that pain is of borderline personality. And I work with a few people that, do you have gloves on?
No, just.
Oh, I thought you had gloves. I thought on top of everything else you had gloves on.
I usually do wear fingerless gloves because my hands get so
Oh
cold.
my
But not
goodness.
today.
I'm sorry. A little ADD moment there. Um,
So good.
sorry about that. But no, you actually are in so much emotional, physical, psychological pain that you just want to end it. That's why suicide is so prevalent with BPD. It is the highest rate of suicide of all mental illness disorders. And it's because you just want out. You want out of the pain. So the pain is, I don't know how to describe it. You say just get over it. There's no getting over borderline pain. It has to just subside. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And one of the things with BPD that is very prevalent also is the rage attacks. So I want you to think in terms of the borderline's brain. When the child is developing, and we've talked about this before, so excuse me if it's a repeat. Hello, kitty cat. But if when the brain is developing in the child and there's so much trauma, it actually splits. And so what happens is the frontal lobe does not get the growth that it's supposed to with the gray bridge that connects the white and the black of a brain that's
Yes.
developing. So it's either all good or all bad. There's no logic bridge in between that takes you to the gray area where you can logic things out and think things through and come to a conclusion. Like it's not all hell is breaking loose and I've got to die type of thing. But with BPD, it's like that. Like I have a young lady that I'm working with in England, believe it or not. I've never actually met her, but she found me on the internet and we've been working together. And I had a family situation come up and I couldn't answer her back right away. So one of the things that is a huge trigger is abandonment with BPD. And so because I couldn't answer her back, she's like, you hate me. I've done something wrong. I'm so stupid. I can't believe this. You know, I hate myself. I should just give up. I should just die. And I'm like, trying right away. I have to explain to my family, I have to text this woman back right now, or she's going to go way off into black. You know, she's going into black brain. And they're like, you don't have to respond to her. That's not your responsibility. And I said, I know, but she's going black right now. So I did text her. I said, just give me a few minutes. I don't hate you. Everything is fine. I will, be in touch momentarily. I'm dealing with a family situation. She's like, oh, okay. So if you can catch it, that's what we want to talk about today is how do you catch it before your loved one, it could be your child, it could be your spouse, it could be anyone, a friend, goes into that other side. So the first thing, I have some notes here, but like I say, the very first common trigger is abandonment and rejection. That is so huge. So if a voicemail is not responded to, if you don't show up on time, they'll be convinced that you're dead. They'll be convinced you don't love them anymore. You hate them. You don't want to ever see them again. So all these things that prolong the connectivity of a relationship is something that will trigger a borderline into a rage black attack. So you're thinking, I'm only 10 minutes late. Okay. And you get there and the person with BPD is just blowing up at you. If they're a boyfriend or girlfriend, they're breaking up with you. They, you hate me. You're blah, 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 blah. They're going on and on and on. And you're like, what is this?
Where have you been? Why
Yeah,
have you taken so long? That 10
exactly.
minutes feels like 10 hours because every second of it is filled with panic. And of course, the more you start panicking, the more the momentum gathers, right? And the greater the panic attack becomes. And eventually, it's this visual in your mind and you can't get a hold of it. Yeah, totally see that.
When I was in my teens and 20s. I was undiagnosed. I was not on medication. I had not been to therapy. I had no idea what was wrong with me. And what the borderline feels is that everyone else is wrong and they are right. Everyone
Yeah.
else is wrong. And so I was actually married my first husband, and he really did cheat on me. He really did do all those things. God bless his heart. But I had quite a lot of borderline rage with him. And we were both drug addicts at the time. We were drinking alcohol excessively. We were smoking cigarettes. It was a different lifestyle. I left that lifestyle completely. Thank God. Thank God I was delivered out of
Wow.
that by
Yeah.
God's
Thank God.
gracious hand. But if I got in a fight with him, I remember a few things that I'll just say. Number one, I would trash the entire apartment. When I say trash it, I mean trash it. I mean break things, tear things off walls, tear the couch apart. One time I broke every dish in the cabinet. Um, and when this is happening, you have your cortisol levels, your adrenaline levels are so high with the rage, it actually is like cutting. It feels good. It feels really good to allow yourself to go into this rage. Now, I know that sounds crazy, and it is crazy, but that's why I'm saying you don't want to trigger it, because especially if you mix recreational drugs and alcohol with the rage attack, you're going to get all hell breaking loose
Yeah.
from the
Absolutely.
person.
Yeah.
So how
Absolutely.
do you de-escalate a person? And I've had people say, well, my son is, 12 years old. He's got BPD, but he's bigger than me. He's stronger than me, and he can beat me up. You know what I'm saying? It's not funny at all what can happen. And if you let rage attacks really get to the extent that they can. So let's look at some of the things. Number one is you genuinely want to try to listen to the person and hear what they're saying. Now, this is the hardest thing for my husband because he's a logical, analytical computer software developer. And so for him, his logic is like, why is she doing this? Why is she raging at me when I'm only 10 minutes late? Let's just say. And reasoning with them, having logic with them does not mean that you're agreeing with them. That's the first thing you need to know. It doesn't mean that you're agreeing with their behavior, and it doesn't mean that you're agreeing with their out of proportion reaction to a situation. It took my husband about 30 years to learn that. No lie.
Yeah.
Because he would think, if I say, I can see how you feel right now, I can see why you're raging out, I can understand that you are very emotionally upset. He thought what that meant was that he was agreeing with my behavior. Does that make sense?
Totally. Sorry, I'm just looking at one or two of the comments in here as well, which I want to chat about just now, but we'll just continue. And I absolutely agree. It takes a lot of skill to be able to calm that emotion down in someone. But which also brings me to the question about, let's say in your husband's case, right? Having a partner who has BPD or a daughter or something, a husband, whatever. It takes a lot for that person to be able to manage this, in their spouse or their partner all the time. So that also takes a lot of extra skill and understanding. I almost think that person needs counseling on their own just to be able to understand the personality type you're dealing with, And I can understand why, as we spoke about earlier, the divorce rate is so high with borderline personality
Yes.
disorder.
Yes.
because the spouses obviously can't deal with that. And I don't think anyone can, not everyone can, that's what I'm saying. No matter how much counseling or preparation you might have, I think it takes a very strong, understanding, wise soul to be able to be with someone who is, and especially in the beginning, right? Who
Oh,
is
yes.
who gets triggered, and let's say just by being 5 minutes late. What do you mean? Like, why are you so frenetic? That can be quite a shocking thing, for someone who's not experienced that before. And I can imagine that that can quickly escalate into something very ugly, right? If it's not understood. So I think this is such an important conversation that we're having, because it absolutely is within the, I think the responsibility might be the word, of the stable one in the equation, to be
Correct.
able to say, listen, okay, hang on, let's do this differently, you know
It literally took, we will be married 37 years, July 5th this year. And it literally took him 30 years to get this. We fought so hard. I'm surprised we survived it. You're like, how are you still together? It is the fights, the escalation. So, but I really want to get these things down, because one of the things I want you to understand is the thing that changed for Joe was there's I don't know if you all have it in South Africa, but we have NAMI, National Alliance for Mentally Ill. NAMI. You must have some kind of a
yes,
mental health
yes, there will be.
alliance.
I'm just not sure if it's that one. I haven't This one doesn't sound familiar, but I can check that out. Yeah.
There's Mental Health America, which I know you don't have that, but there's definitely different branches of the same sort of thing that exists throughout the world. It's not just in the United States.
Yeah.
So you have to avail yourself. What they have is called a family to family course. And that's
Nice.
where he developed the skill set to
Okay.
learn how to de-escalate. So like
Right.
we said, number one, which we got through, which is genuinely try to listen. Number two is validate the behavior, not the actions. You
Yes.
just
Okay.
validate the feelings. What are you feeling right now? Tell me
The
how you're
emotions.
feeling.
Yeah.
Well, you're
The
5 minutes
emotions.
late and I thought you were dead on the side of the road. Okay, why did you think I was? The thing you learn in sales and the thing you learn in mental illness is just ask why. Why did you think I was dead on the side of the road? Well, because that's where my mind went. Well, why do you think your mind went there? It sounds like you're asking why over and over again, and you are. But to the person who is definitely hyper escalated,
Ventilating.
right? Exactly. They don't understand. They don't even hear the why. You're just asking them questions and helping them to focus on why their brain went there. Okay?
Do you find, can I ask you this from your perspective? Because it sounds to me like you guys obviously would have had those types of experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say if um, Joe came home and you were in an escalated state and he did manage to de escalate your rage, did that make that better for you in the future? So, in other words, if in future he was 5 minutes late, was his comfort prior to that enough for you to say, okay, hang on, I overreacted the last time. Maybe it's not that bad. Are
No,
you able to then,
no,
so it doesn't, so there's no, so what you're saying to me is that even though he can do that 30 times, there's not really a time where you are able to make that connection in an escalated state to actually
no.
say, hang on, Alice, take a breath, go and splash your face, take a walk around the house. Last time this happened, or the last tent, it was really nothing. And then boom, the next thing he walks in the door.
It did not happen, Chantelle, until I learned my side, which is how to de-escalate myself.
And which just brings me to the question here from Yorkshire Rose. How does the person themselves get out of this behavior and despairing emotions? Because let's say Joe's not there. Let's say you had an argument with your neighbor or your daughter or your sister, in my case. And you put the phone down or something, and you are feeling completely out of control, and there's no one there to help you with your rage.
Okay, now what I would do is jump to the end of this. So if we could all stay together on this, because I want to get out first what the person does, and then
cool.
Then I'll get out what I do, what I have to do, what a person with BPD has to do. So the next thing is they have to see their inner child. When a person with BPD has gone through trauma in their childhood, it's their inner child that's wounded. It's the inside 5-year-old that never grew up, that didn't get beyond those emotionals of daddy beating her or sexually abusing, God forbid, or whatever the case was. It's the inner child that you're talking to. You are not talking to a 40-year-old adult. You are not talking to somebody that is logical and analytical. You are talking to a child. The child is raging out and having a temper tantrum because they can't control their environment. So when you talk to a child, our 3-year-old granddaughter, when she can't have her lollipop, I don't sit there and scream at her, "You idiot, you fool, what do you think you're doing? Why are you screaming and yelling like that?" Of course, no, it's like, "Desiree, you know what? After you eat your supper, maybe we can revisit the lollipop again." Like you talk to them and you walk them through step by step. So first we're going to do this, then we're going to do that, then you can have the lollipop. So you are talking to typically a 2 or 3-year-old child. That's when most trauma occurs, that is held deep inside, if not ages 5 through 7, and typically not much older than that, unless it's a trauma that involves, let's say, a teenage rape episode or a car accident or some trauma like that. But typically you're talking to a little child. So you are speaking to their inner child. And I hope that makes sense to everyone.
Makes a lot of sense. And it's really, because we've spoken before on how important inner child healing is, because that child, after years, 40, 50, 60 years of being suppressed and abused and not having a voice, becomes very vicious, and it really can take control of your entire life, right?
Correct.
So, and I think that's that really is so important, is to, when your 2-year-old is tantruming, not to scream and shout, because obviously your 2-year-old is in a traumatized state and cannot express themselves. So what I would also do with my granddaughter, when she would get upset, I would just hold her and I'd say, "Okay, I know that you're obviously finding it quite hard to talk right now because you're crying a lot, but it's okay. When you're ready, you can just calm down, take a breath."
Exactly.
And then
that is talk. Exactly how you talk to somebody with BPD, Chantelle. You hit the nail on the head. So the next thing is you set firm boundaries. Let's say you walk in and I'm 21-year-old Alice and I'm breaking all the dishes in the cabinet. Okay. So you walk in on that. That is not a good place to be. You don't want to be in the
Oh,
middle.
hell no.
Oh, hell no. So, woo. So thank God those days are gone. But what you do is you say to the person, I can see that things are highly escalated right now. So what I'm going to do now, this is really important because abandonment, my husband would always leave. And that was the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do is abandon somebody in a rage attack. Oh, well, what do I do for my own safety? You literally try to go into a room that you can lock yourself in and you say, I'm going to be right down the hall in my office. I'm locking the door, but I'm still in the house. I still love you. I still care about you. I'm not going anywhere. I am not abandoning you. I'm still here, but I cannot put up with this behavior right now. Now, if it's really bad, you say, I am going out to the vehicle and I'm locking myself in the car and I'm not leaving the driveway. I'm not abandoning you. Most of those children that went through trauma were severely abandoned also.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to question on that note, and I think it's very, very important to do that. But now let's flip the roles here. Let's say it's a male with BPD, and he flies into a trigger rage at his wife or his kids.
I'd lock myself in the car.
Okay. So I'm just saying, in terms of a woman, because I'm just thinking there must be a lot of domestic violence must be coming from these types of mental situations as well, like with men that have, and especially if we look at the history of our men, war, military, completely detached from emotion. We know now how many of our guys have been, their minds have been tampered with, you know, and how do you expect a damaged adult to raise healthy children? You can't. So, you know, so it's really, and I think, wow, you know what I really hope here is this just gives people food for thought to imagine for a moment if this was your father or your mother and you were a child and you're unaware. I'm just hoping that this will unlock something for someone. You know what I'm saying? To realize that so many of these abuse cases, and please, I'm not saying it's okay. Don't ever misunderstand me.
It's not okay.
But I'm trying to understand.
It's not okay.
Ever. When a parent, right, or a man beats a woman or a child, it is not in the male's DNA to hurt his woman. Remember, the essence of him is to provide and protect, hunt and gather. That's the essence of the male, right? When we're looking at the male in God's glory, that's what he truly wants for us. But when they've been so damaged by society, they then turn into often these what we term monsters, right? Who beat, break, and abuse. So I mean, I can see how that is on both sides, but I think I don't want to say it's more okay because I can't say that. But a woman is not generally physically stronger than her husband, although she can certainly do things and throw things, whatever. But it's kind of like, to me, feels like less of a danger for a man in that situation.
Not necessarily, Sean. I wish I could say that, but not necessarily. Physically, yes, maybe the man is stronger, but the thing you don't want to do is rage out at the same time a person rages out. If you've got two people raging out, you're going to end up in a fist fight. You're going to end up breaking things. You're going to end up. Did you ever see that movie War of the Roses?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So they
Quite
were
a
being
shocking
divorced.
movie. It's one of those movies I've only ever seen it once. Usually I watch them a few times, but that has always stuck in my head, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and how much did they tear apart that house and each other?
Yes.
They
Yeah.
were barely left standing by the end of the movie. It was absolutely insane. So, yeah, the last thing you want to do is combat rage with rage.
Mm.
So
Absolutely, you can't.
again, if you're really raging, if somebody is really raging out, you want to dismiss yourself, go lock yourself in the car, turn the AC on, turn the radio up, do whatever you have to do your deep breathing, realize, and then go back in 15, 20 minutes later, maybe call them. If they're still screaming at you and yelling at you and cursing you out, hang up the phone. I'm still out here in the driveway. I'm not going anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. I love you. I understand that this is a situation right now. Now, this is for somebody that's diagnosed with BPD. Okay. This isn't if somebody's a narcissistic, crazy psychopath. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
If they're a psychopath, get in the car and drive away. I'm talking about borderline rage specifically. Yeah. So the next thing is you're setting the firm boundaries, you're being compassionate. You're knowing the person's triggers, and there's no way to manage or cope with this type of a situation once it's in the middle of it, except for what I've been saying right now. A BPD person can be angry and display this behavior for an hour, a day, a week, a month, 6 months.
That's tough. I mean, in a family, that's tough,
They can lock in on that one. They can be what we call black brain episode for months. And you gotta work your way out of it. So we're going to talk about that. And it's all because that part of the amygdala never formed properly, and they don't have that emotional regulation. It's like not having a governor on a car.
Yeah.
You don't have a governor on a car, you can't correct the speed. Okay. They deal with rejection, abandonment, etc. They cycle through. You always want to honor yourself. If they're if they're not physically doing anything, but they're verbally abusing you and calling you every name in the book and being just trashing you personally, you still want to de-escalate, get yourself out of the situation, go into a locked room or go into the car, do what you need to do. Okay. Yeah. Verbal assaults are just as damaging to the psyche as physical assaults. Sometimes verbal assaults last longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And offer them reassurance, be patient, and stay strong. Now, one of the things that happens when you get into this, and it doesn't just happen with BPD, it happens with panic anxiety disorder. It can happen with bipolar. These things go across the gamut, and that is a panic attack. There's a difference between a rage attack and a panic attack. A panic attack is where you start to hyperventilate. Your heart is beating out of your chest. You feel like you're having a physical heart attack. Your extremities, I've been hospitalized with panic attacks, and they've had to shoot Valium in me to bring me down and such like that. And I felt like my extremities were completely frozen. I swore I was dying. I swore I was not going to make it through this. And you will feel like the whole room is spinning. Everything is out of focus. You can't hear people. They sound like in the movie, like they're 100 miles away. Everything sounds like it's underwater. You feel like you're underwater. It's a very, very scary thing. Now, that's a different episode than a BPD rage attack. So you need to ascertain whether or not somebody is going through a panic attack or they're going through a rage attack, right?
I would imagine a rage attack is very like aggressive, so it's more attacking, right? Whereas a
Yes.
panic attack would be more fear-based, like, oh my God, I can't breathe, that kind of thing. More self-inflicted, if that's the word. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not sure. Yeah.
You'll even
Wow.
see them curl up into a fetal position, rock back and
Mm.
forth, crying hysterically. Now that, if you get really bad, my times that I've been sent to the emergency room with a panic attack, they usually they get you into Valium and calm you down that way. Don't restrain somebody with a panic attack. Never try to hug them really tight or restrain them, because that will only make things worse. That will only escalate them more. Now, they can regulate their breathing. I'm just going over here because the other thing is you want to know how to get them down from that. So you want to help them regulate their breathing. One thing that's very, very helpful is cold ice. They can take ice and hold it in their hands, and it will actually change their body temperature, or fill a small bowl with water and ice and have them duck their whole face into the ice.
Absolutely. I'll
Yes.
tell you that much. And that's a complete dopamine hit.
Yes.
And do you know that I actually read, I'm a great one for what I always call the shower shot, like having a 2-minute cold shower after you've had your hot shower. And I was actually seeing something the other day, which is quite interesting. He's going, cold showers are the new cocaine, because he's talking about certain things like breathing, whatever. Certain types of things that where you get a dopamine hit, you'll get a 200% dopamine hit, but it lasts for like 10 minutes. Smoking a cigarette will give you a dopamine hit, but then you'll drop. Cold showers give you a 250% dopamine hit, and it lasts for 4 hours. I've been doing it for the past year, just about every day, and I started
Isn't
in
it
winter last year.
wonderful? It makes all
It
the
is incredible.
it is incredible.
Honestly,
I
for
have
something
been
like this, and to just put your head to rinse your head, just take your head under a cold tap, or dunk it in ice, an ice bucket of water. Ice is very good. The colder the water, the better, because it completely snaps you out of where you're at. It
I
really
like the
does.
ice in the bowl. I like the ice in the bowl.
Yeah, I do
Sometimes
that too every morning.
yeah, and sometimes I'll just take the ice cubes in my hands. It depends on where I am. Even if I have a drink, if I'm that bad, I'll take the ice right out of my drink and put it in my hands, because you're changing the parasympathetic
So these, so the
system.
ice is a little trick you've taught yourself over
Yes.
the years.
Yes.
So that's kind of a self. It might be nice just to, if there's any viewers out there, because I'm seeing a lot of the viewers are resonating with what you're saying, and there's been a question about controlling themselves, and one blessed by the best is talking about someone she knows that's had a restraining order, but a drug addict with BPD ish. Hectic one, that. But just in terms of, as you say, holding ice, what would either be a nice one or two little quick trick you
I'm
could
going to
give
go through
yourself?
those. I'm going to go through those now,
Okay.
but I want to tell you how radical I get. This is how radical
Okay.
I've gotten in the past, when I couldn't control it. I've gone into a cold shower with all my clothes on. That's how
What did that do
radical.
for you? How do you feel? How did you feel? Okay, where were you at when you got in the shower, and how did the cold shower make you feel when you got out?
I was in such a panic struck mode that nothing was making sense to me. I could not. I was alone. Joe had left the house. I couldn't get myself out of it. I was hyperventilating. I just turned on the cold tap and I just went into the shower and I just stood there just put my arms against the wall and stood there and let that cold water come down on me with all my clothes on. And then I woke up. I was like, woo,
Yeah.
but I felt like, what are you, a nut job? But I had to do something. I knew I had to do something. And that was really radical, but hey, it worked. It got me calmed down. I was able to call him and say, it's okay. You can come home. I'm all right. I calmed myself down. So let's talk about the other flip side to this coin, which is me, the BPD, calming myself down. So here we go. We're going to go through a list of things now. Music really, really helps. Whatever music you relate to, it doesn't matter here. This is not a test. If you relate to disco, if you relate to rock and roll, you relate to jazz music, soothing music, classical music, it's whatever kind of music you relate to. Put the headphones on, lay down, and listen to the music. Music is a huge healer. The next thing is what Chantelle was just doing, cuddle with a pet. If you have a pet, you want to cuddle with your pet because that will help you. Or, just if you have a stuffed animal, even. I don't have a pet, but I have a llama. I love llamas.
So you got a llama toy and you hug your llama.
Yeah, my llama's like big. I have a huge llama. He's like a big llama. And that's my buddy. Don't make fun of me. Okay. Have a cup of tea. It just the act of making the tea, focusing in on that, put some honey in it, put some lemon in it, just whatever is going to soothe you at that point. If you can, take a walk around the block. If you can. If you can't, you can't. Exercise and yoga, sports, all of that is really, really good. I'm a treadmill girl, so I go down to our gym that we have on the premises where we live, and I will get on there and just pound it out on the treadmill with my headphones on, blaring. So that's what I like to do. You can, now this doesn't work for me, read a book or a magazine. That never works for me because I can't focus enough to read, but some people can. Writing and journaling is really huge. I love to write and journal it out. Just dump it all on paper. Just vomit it out on paper and get it all out. It doesn't matter how it looks. It doesn't matter if it's spelt correctly. It doesn't matter if it makes any sense. Just vomit out what your brain is thinking at that moment. Draw or sketch if you're artistic. Use an adult coloring book if you're artistic. Some people like to watch Netflix or play video games. You could visualize, get out of the house and go shopping. Hello, that's one of my things.
I would not advise anyone that's activated to go shopping, seriously, because that's going to be the time you make the worst purchases. Anyway, I just wanted to pop this one up from Nikki. Did you see it? Can you read it on the screen?
What does it say? Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom. Thank you for fighting and moving forward. So that's from your daughter, Nikki.
She grew up with all this, guys. My daughter grew up in this whirlwind of a mess. God bless her. She's all the more better for it, but she really did. Lastly, watch a funny, like they have the funny cat videos or baby videos.
Yeah. Yes.
Or
a dartboard. Layla says a dartboard.
A dartboard.
That's excellent, actually. Just not a shooting range, okay? Let's keep it at a dartboard and let's make sure no one's standing in front of it.
Oh gosh. It's I like to scroll on my phone. Just when you scroll, and whether it's Instagram or Facebook, now that may depress some people. You have to know yourself well enough to know, okay, what is it that I get into that's going to calm me down? Like, for instance, I said, I'm not a reader that I could sit there when I'm raging or I'm in a panic attack and read a book. That's not going to happen. But for some people, it might, So you can kind of fill in your own blank there. A lot of people will have substance abuse issues during this time. If they're prone to drinking alcohol, if they're prone to smoking weed or taking drugs. That's how I used to self-medicate. I want you to know that makes things a million times worse. And what it does is it will actually, if you're like me and you suffer from suicidal ideation, it will actually make you more suicidal because those are depressants to your system.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what I find is really fantastic? Driving. So if you drive as well, getting in the car, just the movement.
Mm-hmm.
Not in traffic and not in peak hour traffic. You don't want to irritate yourself even more. So you want to, like, maybe I find going out on an open road, um, just the movement in the car for me is very soothing. I think it must be also, when we were kids, my parents, when we couldn't sleep as babies and we lived on the farm, I would literally put us in the side of my dad's little truck and he would drive us around Humpy
Mm-hmm.
Hills, so you kind of get that. Maybe it's the motion as well, but I found driving and definitely nature. For me to go for a run, just to get into fresh air, breathe, just do that breathing, take a walk on the beach, take a walk around the block,
Excellent.
just that is really, because exercise again activates endorphins, right? And
Mm-hmm.
endorphins are the happy drug. So the body's happy drug. So just by going for a brisk walk and regularly, not just in an activated state.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, I think, the more we keep ourselves consistent with doing the good things for ourselves and not just relying on outside help, such as our medication, but really putting in the effort to change things um, in a natural way as well. Really to connect to God's medicine, which is nature. Walk barefoot on the beach,
Very
on the
grounding.
forest.
Very
Yes.
grounding. Mm-hmm.
Um, take a walk. If you go for a drive, stop on the side of the road, take your shoes off and just stand and just be in nature. Look at a flower. Admire the beauty of something so beautiful. A tree. Stand and literally hug a tree. Feel that consciousness that nature has. And as you say, your pets as well. Cuddle a pet. You know, they are so intuitive. It's really it's amazing actually what we can actually do that God gives us in a natural way, right? That we can
Right. And
do
one
so.
of the last things I want to say as we're winding down here is get yourself a mantra or something that you can say to yourself repeatedly. Mine, I say the Lord's Prayer. I focus on every single syllable of the Lord's Prayer. And I will say it over and over and over in my mind. So just every single part of it, I'm just focusing it, our Father who art in heaven. I'm just thinking of every single word I'm saying in my mind. I'll say it out loud. When you get that mantra going in your head and it's going, I'm using mantra because it's something that's going to ground you. It could be anything. If you know a poem, if you know words to a song, something that's going to make you reflect and think as you're going through it. Right?
Yeah, yeah. You know what I
Very helpful.
find also is just to go, mm, close your mouth, keep your lips together, and because you see, we must never forget our body is a resonance chamber.
Mm-hmm.
So when we, I've got a terrible voice, so it's quite embarrassing to do that. But so you literally keep your lips together and you hum, but different tones,
Mm-hmm.
and sit for 2 or 3 minutes and literally just close your eyes and hum. and you feel the vibration that your lips send into the rest of your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. It's like your cells start moving. Because let's think about pain or anger or sadness or grief or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like steel. It's like steel covers you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Steel, and you cannot move out of that. But when you just sit, you accept where you are. The big thing here is acceptance. You see, the big problem we have is that we fight against what is. And when we fight against what is, we weaken ourselves. We're using too much energy combating a losing battle. Right now, in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
that thing is bigger than you. So you're not submitting to say, okay, I give up, take over and destroy the house. That's not what you're saying. You're going, right, I accept I feel this way. But I'm responsible enough to say, sit the F down, Chantelle, make a cup of tea, close your eyes, and hum for 2 minutes.
I used to not be able to do that. With
Yeah,
practice, you can
you do
do
get
it.
it.
With
Yeah.
practice, anybody can do this. You have to want, we call it radical acceptance. You talked about acceptance. We call it radically accepting the state of mind that we're in it and
Yeah.
understanding it. You
That's
know,
the only way we can heal. I mean, it's
mm-hmm,
those are the principles I teach in everything I do. You
mm-hmm,
cannot fight what is, and it doesn't matter where you are in life right now. You are in the perfect place. I don't care how crap it might feel for you. You're in the perfect place. And as long as you're fighting that which is, you're always going to be combating that. So to
mm-hmm.
accept, yes, I'm here. Yes, I got here because I abused money. Yes, I got here because I didn't make good decisions.
Correct.
Okay, that's okay. How can I make better decisions from here onwards? What do I need to do? How? And then you sit and you hum. For me, that humming is super
Mm-hmm.
powerful. I want to tell you,
I
because
mean,
as I said, your body's a resonance chamber, and the humming starts getting the vibration going.
mm-hmm,
Do that, guys. If you're battling any kind of depression, very good for depression. It's one of the big things I often tell my clients who are battling with anything like
mm-hmm.
this, just to get into that humming resonance. Yeah,
That or having that focus word, even, mine is
yeah,
Jesus, just Jesus, 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 Jesus. It
yeah,
depends on, what you feel, what you resonate with.
yeah,
And the last thing I want to say is when you have the husband and wife, the parent and the child, the siblings, whoever it is that's in this type of a relationship, when you have them working together, I will testify that my husband and I have been healed from this. Our daughter and I and my husband have been healed from this, from these attacks.
yeah. Amazing.
And my son-in-law is not a part of this. My brother and I have been healed from rage attacks, which is huge, huge. Oh my
That's
goodness.
amazing.
My mother and I have been healed from these attacks. My father is deceased, but I'm just saying you can do it. If I can do it, God is no respecter of persons. What he does for one, he will do for you. He's no
Absolutely.
respecter of person. So he can do this for you. And that's my encouragement I want to give you. If you knew how many years of fighting and turmoil and mayhem our family went through, and if you saw us now, we got some pretty not so great news this week. And literally, my reaction was I just sat there and I listened and I just watched the reactions on the faces of the people that were speaking, and I didn't even respond. Normally, I would blow up and go into a whole mayhem and the whole 9 yards, but I just sat and listened. I didn't say anything for quite some time. And, sometimes I have to chuckle to myself because my family forgets how far I've come in my healing, which is good. They forget. She's healed now. She's not raging out. She's not doing all that stuff. So anyway, just want to say that there is
That's
hope.
amazing.
There is
Yeah.
hope, people.
There is hope. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So Chantelle, I want to thank you so much for allowing this topic to be on your platform, because I think it's so imperative that people learn how to cope and learn these skills.
Absolutely. And I always say, where we're at right now, we're in the place, if we just see, and everyone who's been watching us for the last 2 and a bit years knows the types of stuff that we bring to the fore. And it's only just beginning, guys. It's only just beginning. We are going to be seeing, and that's why I was saying the healers need to equip ourselves with this type of information, because unbeknownst to me, before I understood this, there was lots of stuff that I saw in my clients. They'd blocked away. I was like, what the heck, but not realizing where it's coming from. And now, through speaking to a lot of people, Alice, like yourself, we understand where it comes from. So those of us who really are healers, and I mean, I don't say that with exclusivity. Healer is not something you try and be. Healer is something that you've been to hell. You've come out of there, and it doesn't mean that you are perfect and can now levitate. Not at all. It means
no levitation going on here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you said at the beginning of the program, Alice, like this lady you were working with. You understood completely that she was going into her black hole, so to speak, when she thought you were rejecting her. You knew exactly how to reassure her, and you understood she needed you in that moment, and you were able to give her some of your time. I have the same thing with a lot of clients as well. It's like you understand some are a lot more needy than the others.
Right.
So you kind of like, you're able to be more there when someone is going through something difficult. So you really are able to understand. And only those who've been through it authentically can understand what it is. And that's why I want to encourage everyone who's been through this, going through it, suspecting that you have these types of situation. I don't call it situational, but I don't call it label either. So I don't know. We've got to find a word for this, Alice, because I don't like saying a mental label, mental health.
I know. I don't either.
And we just got to find, and really, if you suspect that a member of your family might have something like this, speak up, reach out. People like Alice are out there right now, and her daughter, Nikki. And, you guys can reach out to Alice and Nikki. You're welcome to reach out to me. I've had a lot of experience in the healing world as well. I've been dealing with people for 20 years. And it's very rewarding when one can understand, and one, you can show or find that thread, that takes to the core where the true and authentic healing is within, because that's truly where it is. So we're in a place of healing in this world.
Welcome to email me anytime.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes, so we've got your details will be in the description section. So anyone who wants to contact Alice, you are welcome to. And I just want to say to you all, thank you so much for joining me again, and Alice, for another very important topic on borderline personality disorder, trigger rage, panic attacks, anything you want to know more. We've had previous interviews, so if you haven't watched them already, I highly recommend that you do. They're super informative and really open our mind to understanding. It's so healing. If you've had a mom like this and suddenly you can understand, oh my gosh, that's what was going on with my mother. She didn't really hate me.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It is so healing. Guys, it is so healing to listen to these conversations. And it's like little popcorn starts popping, that, things start lighting up. Anyway, it's amazing. And please share spread this word. It's so important and
Yes.
very, very healing. Okay, guys, thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow. We got double Jessie at 1:30 and 3 o'clock my time, or 3:30, whatever. Every second Wednesday. We'll be covering some very interesting topics tomorrow, including the whole Simpson thingy and this submarine thingy and all the connecting thingies, but we're not going to give away too much. Join us. Okay, guys, take very good care of yourselves. God bless
Thank
you
you,
all.
Chantelle.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Alex.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.